This week on TGC News, Iowa goes hard in the paint for gun laws, barrel obstructions, and a handguard that doesn't suck. RE Factor Tactical now offers some of the most useful targets around. Whether it's the IQ, the kill zone, or the essentials target, you won't be short on drills to run at the range. To get 10% off your entire order, click the RE Factor link in the description and use the code TGC10. Welcome back. My name is Jon Patton, and this week's first segment is about a state which I know very little about and just assume is one of the most boring places on earth. Iowa. Regardless of Iowa's entertainment levels or lack thereof, the Hawkeye State made some real progress recently with what they called Second Amendment Day. Long story short, lawmakers were actually earning their pay and passed not one, but 5. That should have been a law years ago. Laws. First up, they agreed that the information about concealed carry permit holders should be kept private. Durr. Then they agreed that it was okay for people to have a gun whilst broing it up on an ATV or a snowmobile. Again, yeah, cool. They also agreed on not confiscating guns or ammo during a state of emergency. That's actually an interesting one. I like that they did that. And one of my favorite things that they passed was the right for private citizens in Iowa to own suppressors. I didn't even know they couldn't. To which I think the people of Iowa reacted, that'll be fine. It blows my mind that there are people here in the U.S. that still think suppressors are a bad thing. If you can go buy a muffler for your car, you should be able to go buy a muffler for your gun, cash and carry. It's very simple. And finally, the one that I find the most intriguing, they passed a law that will now allow kids under the age of 14 to possess a pistol, revolver, and or ammunition for those guns while under parental supervision. How is this not already a thing? Let me start off by saying I don't have kids. I can hear people tuning out already. But from my perspective, a parent should be allowed to teach their kid about guns without the need or assistance from a law. Prior to this happening, you could only apparently teach them with a long gun, which is kind of silly. I mean, that's ridiculous. Handguns are really fun, and teaching safety across all platforms is important no matter what the age is. Of course, there are people that are more dense than a neutron star that are spouting off about this, creating a militia of toddlers because in theory this allows babies under adult supervision to possess guns, but last time I checked, that doesn't negate or sidestep proper parenting. And besides, most kids don't have the strength to rack a slide or chamber around in a semi-auto, so if you do your part as a parent, there won't be any issues, right? Either way, I'm sure some Neanderthal will try to link this to irresponsible parents in the news that are like, I'm not sure why he killed his brother. I just left it in my gun on the table fully loaded with the safety off and did nothing to teach them about gun safety. So what could go wrong there? I don't even know. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You cannot legislate stupidity. It will be there no matter what. So why bother blocking good people from teaching their kids proper safety, right? I want to hear your thoughts on this. Leave it in the comments below whether you agree with me or not. Parents and people without kids both. And in barrel obstruction news, there is a new pistol mounting system called the Gun Control System from a company called Madhouse Design. I've never heard of Madhouse, but a cursory glance at their website reveals that the company focuses on making you look like a dipshit at the range. They offer a variety of products such as the dual sight system, which is supposed to allow you to use 2 sights, one on top of the other, like you could on a lever gun with see-through scope rings. But it kind of ends up making you shoot with no cheek weld if you're using the top optic and with a top heavy gun on top of that. I would compare it to trying to drive your car while sticking your head out of the sunroof. It doesn't make any sense. They also offer a precision gun rest that doesn't actually look that horrible. And of course, because it's an area that there are very few products in, they also make muzzle devices. The real focus here though is the GCS. Essentially, it's a peg on a swivel mounted to what appears to be a knockoff kind of piece of Picatinny rail. The reason I want to share this with you guys is because I have a message to anyone out there watching. Stop sticking stuff in the muzzle of a loaded gun. Stop it. You are not being innovative. There is a reason no one did it before. For whatever reason, we've seen a growing trend of barrel obstructing holsters, with examples such as the ND Mobile from VersaCarry, or the I can't get this damn thing out of the box 1992 PDA thing from EAA called the Abdo. They all say stuff like, we've coated the peg so it doesn't scratch the bore of your gun, and that's good because you wouldn't want scratches on the inside of a blown up gun with a bore obstruction, right? I think it's fine for storing a gun or, at a gun store or something like that. That actually makes sense to me. But I'm being harsh about this because they seem to ignore simple safety rules for good holsters and gun retention systems. This GCS from Madhouse Design is being touted as a way to carry in the car. And the gun is not secured in any way besides gravity. That's fail number 1. Then there is nothing covering the trigger at all. Fail number 2. And then there is something in the barrel of a loaded gun. Just like I said, a bore obstruction. That's fail number 3. It's not a good idea to rely on something like this in a time of need. Now, let me say that I actually like the idea of having an in-car mount that's flexible in where you can put it and how you can adjust it to fit the gun, the car, and the person driving. But why not have some kind of Kydex or plastic wrap around the front of the gun or something like that instead of a good enough design that is supposed to be universal but you're just being lazy? I mean, that's just ridiculous to me. This type of crap is really frustrating because people that don't know any better spend hard-earned money on this and get a subpar product and have no idea they're doing it. The long and short of this is that we need to keep educating and showing people why things like this are not a good idea for carrying a loaded gun. And on #NotAReview, the segment where I take a product and give you guys a hands-on spotlight, we're taking a look at the Gen 3 M-Series free-float handguard from Midwest Industries. If you've been watching the show for a while, you might remember seeing these in a sponsor spot, but I wanted to take the time to get a little deeper and show you exactly why I like these things in a Not a Review segment. I'll give you the top 4 reasons why I think these things rock, and this isn't nonsense here. I actually do like these. Number 1, they're super lightweight. The 15-inch version that I'm showing off here, combined with the barrel nut, is just under 11 ounces. That's fairly lightweight, guys. I really like that. With the huge trend in lightweight guns going on right now, this is a solid choice. I love tossing around a light gun and just driving it all over the range. I dig that. Number 2, the flexibility that this thing has in mounting options. There are M-LOK slots on 7 sides of this thing. You can mount stuff any way you wanted to, at a 90 degree, at a 45 degree, whatever. And with the addition of things like the connect pieces from KDG, you can move it all around quickly and really adjust your setup for what you're doing. M-LOK is definitely my favorite mounting system, and seeing it on the Midwest handguards is a big plus. Number 3, the overall build quality and design is outstanding. With the combination of texture on the barrel nut plus the added Loctite type sealant that they put on there and the torque plate system, this thing is not going to move around. It's not going to come loose. And, I've had rails come loose on me before, and it's a big pain when you're at the range and suddenly you start seeing your groups just open up, and then you realize that it's because of a poor design and something came loose. I'm confident in saying that that is not going to happen with this setup. I also really like the way this thing looks. Sure, that's kind of tertiary, but I like it. I just like it. And the top reason that this handguard matters to me, it's the way it fits my hand. Gone are the days of gigantic quad rails. At 1.5 inch outside diameter, this thing is one of the more slim rails that I've ever trusted on my gun. I'd put this thing right up there with something like the Noveske NSR rail, which is only 0.02 inches smaller in diameter and costs about $90 more, with the MSRP on this 15-inch model at $189.95, so $190 basically. What's not to like about a handguard with a good attachment system? It's lightweight, it's got good ergos, and it's at a solid price. And I'm not saying this stuff because they support the show. I wouldn't work with a company if I didn't actually like the products. That's why we started working together in the first place, is because I actually like what they make. If you guys want to learn more, you can click the link in the description to head over to MidwestIndustries.com. Also, because they've offered you guys a discount in the past, you can still use TGC Gen 3 to get 10% off these bad boys on their site. This week's Friendly Fire question is from Matthew226 on Instagram, and he says, as a young individual whose family enjoys shooting, I find it hard to express my love of the gun culture and my Second Amendment right in a way that doesn't make my peers and adults pin me as a crazy person. Any advice to show my passion and also not make people think I'm dangerous just because I legally enjoy my rights? By the wording here, I'm going to assume that Matthew is still in school, but that's a great question for people of all ages. My advice to you is this: handle it like I handle it. Help people overcome their irrational fears by education and understanding. There's no reason to get mad at them for not knowing better. There's no reason to be a standoffish jerk about it. Just try and educate whenever possible. Be a good person. I find that some people, no matter what the topic, can be condescending and ignorant when someone isn't on the same level of education as them. And that's not going to win anyone over here. In order for us to help the community grow, we have to be willing to help guide the hesitant. I would even go as far as to invite them shooting with no strings attached. And hey, they may find out that they still don't like guns, but they also might find out that they effing love them. Be respectful, be polite, and educate. It's very simple. We don't want them shoving opinions down our throat, so let's not do the same to them. My friendly fire question to you guys: have you ever taken someone that was unsure about guns to the range? If you did, how did it work out in the end? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys want your question answered right here on the show, you can post that on Facebook.com/TheGunCollective. You can send it to me on Snapchat @GunCollective, or post it on Instagram and tag The Gun Collective. Yeah. Bring your EDC game to a new level with KeyBar, offered in tons of different finishes from aluminum to titanium to carbon fiber and tons of other fancy options. You can stack these with things like a titanium comb or a USB flash drive. The only limitation is your mind. Use the code TGC10 to get 10% off your entire order at keybar.us. And that is it for this week's show. Guys, do not forget, next week, I will be announcing the February photo contest winner for the love theme, so get your entries in before that happens. Of course, you know what to do. If you enjoyed this episode of TGC News, hit like and share it with your friends. If you didn't, let me know down in the comments so we can talk about it. Do not forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss a single week of the show. And as always, thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon. The shirts worn in today's episode of TGC News were provided by Barrett Apparel. Click the link in the description to learn more.